Okay, so let's continue after this little break. As we had just compared, the judgment, the rights of judgment, and letting go of that right and to decide to forgive, and the difference it will bring in your own life. Yes, there is one very important thing which is often we do and we don't realize the consequence of it. Have you ever in your life said, oh, that man has hurt me so much, what you did to me, I will never become like you? Maybe sometimes we say that to our fathers or our mothers or somebody else close to us. I will never become like you. Basically, those statements are statements of unforgiveness. And those statements, when people make them, and in particular often, children can do that.
Yeah.
Yes. So when we say, I will never become like that man, I will never become like that pastor, I will never become like my father, I will never become like my mother, actually what you see in reality is that person holds on to that. Later on in life, that person will become exactly the same and worse.
Yeah.
So if you genuinely do not want to become like somebody who has hurt you, the only way not to become like that person is first to forgive and release that person, and then humbly ask the Lord to help you and teach you a better way and to become, and then you will do differently. Then you will do much better. Okay? Now, that brings me to the next point. And the second one, the second reason why God cannot forgive us if we do not forgive others is that we bind ourselves in unforgiveness. It's not even God who binds us. We bind ourselves when we don't forgive. I put myself in chains if I do not forgive. You see, unforgiveness is like me drinking poison and expecting the person who has committed something painful to me to die. It never works. When I drink the poison, I die.
Yeah.
It's foolish to think that I can drink poison and another person will die for it. You see, if somebody badly hurt me, okay, if somebody name something really bad like sexual molestation, sexual rape, or somebody has been bullying you for years, putting you down, calling you names, as long as I do not forgive that person, as long as I do not release that person, that crime will repeat itself every day in my mind. I will live with the memory included, all the emotions with it in my life every day. Every day of my life, that memory with all its power and impact will become my filter through which I look at my life, at my day, at the people around me. It will become the determination of my circumstances. And I will relive it every time again. It will reflect in every circumstance around me. It will reoccur everywhere. It will light up in the smallest things and make the smallest little things around me become extremely painful. It will relive itself over and over and over. And my wounds will never heal. And that continues till I am ready to forgive. Now, maybe you have heard people say, oh, time healed old wounds. Time heals all wounds. Have people ever told you that?
Yeah.
It's a lie. Just try it. Try it. If you fall physically, if you fall, okay, or something, and you get a wound and there is dirt in the wound, okay, try to put just a nice bandage over the wound, but don't clean it, and see if it will heal. Will it heal?
Never.
No, it will get infected. The infection becomes very painful and it becomes bigger and bigger. The bandage I put initially will not be big enough again. So in order not to see it and to ignore it, I have to put a bigger bandage over it. In the end, it will go till my bone, it will go, the infection will go into my bloodstream and I will die. It will kill me. Time does not heal wounds. It's a deception. Time worsens wounds. The only wounds that heal are wounds that get cleaned out. What is cleaning out? Cleaning out in emotional wounds is the forgiveness and the grieving process. That cleans out our emotional wounds. The only thing time does, the infection in the emotional wounds, is bitterness and resentment. That's the only thing I will get over time if I do not clean out my wounds. So no forgiveness also simply means no healing. Okay, so that's how you understand. Refusing to forgive is like drinking poison, expect the other person to die. You bind yourself. It's a simple principle. Now you can just later on read, like, for example, scriptures like Colossians 3, verse 12 till 17. You can read it yourself later, okay, for time's sake. If we go to 2 Corinthians 2, verse 5 till 11. It says, for such a one, this punishment by the majority is sufficient. It speaks about somebody who has committed a wrong, you know. And already the fact that people initially were angry. It says, for such a one, this punishment by the majority is sufficient. So instead of further rebuke now, you should rather graciously forgive and comfort and encourage him to keep him from being overwhelmed by excessive sorrow. Now, if somebody has wronged people in the church, that's what it speaks about. You know, Paul is saying, come on, you have already been angry with him. Please stop being angry. That anger you had, your initial anger, because it just speaks about an initial anger, that's enough. Let it end here. You do not need to heap unnecessary bigger sorrow on the person who did something wrong. Now, of course, it has to do also with the point of acknowledging the wrongdoing, okay? When that acknowledging the wrongdoing is not there, it becomes a different issue, but still it's not an issue that you shouldn't forgive, but then there is a consequence of the not acknowledging the wrongdoing, okay? It says, therefore, I urge you to reinstate him in your affections and reaffirm your agape love for him. You know, that word love is agape. In other words, there are not to be any conditions to your love anyways. If I have forgiven anything, it has been for your sake in the presence of and with the approval of Christ, to keep Satan from taking advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his schemes. Now here you see something very important. Satan will not want people to forgive so that he can take advantage of us. Because then he can go before the Lord and say, ah, they are not forgiving. So look, law of sowing and reaping. And he can come, and since you didn't forgive, he can, you know, bring a deep division and bring more hurt into people's lives. And Paul says, we are not unaware of Satan's schemes. You know, we do not allow him to take advantage of us. Release the forgiveness and reaffirm your love, your agape love. Okay? You see, it's important to realize with every sin, you know, 2 John 2, you know, 2 John 2 verse 2. It says there that Jesus did not die for the church only, not for our sin only, which is the church, but for the sins of the whole entire world. It simply means that sin is no longer the issue that separates us from the Lord. Sin itself. What separates us from the Lord? What separates us from the Lord is failing to reconcile with him, failing to acknowledge, failing to acknowledge our wrongdoing. That is what separates us from the Lord. The sin Jesus died for, that is paid. But if I do not acknowledge my wrongdoing, then I also fail to reconcile with the Lord. That is what keeps me separate from the Lord. It's my Heavenly Father waiting for me, standing with his arms stretched out. And I refuse to accept them and says, I don't need them. That is what keeps us separate from the Lord. Okay? Refusing to accept the price Jesus paid and say he came for nothing. I don't need it. Not acknowledging the severity of our wrongdoing. And so in itself, you know, that is a difference between punishment and the consequence of sin. Okay? When you look at the Catholic Church, they have this thing of the confession to make. Now, confession in itself is very godly, you know, it's biblical. But what do they often do in the Catholic Church? When people have confessed their sin, the pastor will forgive them, but still tell them to do something to make a little atonement. What do they say in itself by doing that, by saying that?
That your confession is not enough. Like
Christ, exactly.
Jesus' payment wasn't enough. So you still have to do something.
Exactly. It's basically in the core a mockery of Jesus. The same with that whole belief of the purgatory fire where people still will go into before they can go to heaven. It's basically saying, yeah, you know, Jesus did die that you eventually can maybe go to heaven, but, you know, you still have to suffer some years in the fire. You still have to go through horrendous pains. You can never escape it because, yeah, you know, that sacrifice of Jesus was not fully enough. Well, let me tell you, Jesus lied when he said, it is finished. And let me tell you, when Jesus said, it is finished, it was finished. Okay? Sin was dealt with. So, this is something very important to really realize, because this is some places a big issue in some nations, and in Nigeria is one of them, a very big issue in the church. By people being put under church discipline while they are repenting of their sin. I know people who were, a man who repented of his immorality, not knowing that the girl he had slept with had become pregnant. And they were about to get married. Now, of course, that immorality is immorality. Having sex before marriage is a sin, okay?
Yeah.
He repented of it. And in itself, I think even the pastor initially forgave him. And then within a week after that, they realized that the girl had become pregnant. That pastor put this man under church discipline for over a year. Actually, I think that the pastor never released him from the church discipline. He left the church eventually and he went to another church, okay, another denomination. Because I think it was even over here. And this man was even serving the Lord. He made a mistake, yes. But was just pushed under church discipline. And that's punishment. As if the fact that Jesus died was not enough. That is something else than a consequence of sin. Okay? And by the way, as I shared before, church discipline is when somebody is unrepentant. Only when somebody is unrepentant, then there is to be church discipline. Paul is very clearly describes, when somebody has wronged you, you go to him initially by yourself. You don't tell everybody around and complain to everybody around what the person did to you. No, you go to that person yourself. And you tell him in a loving and caring way, not in a blaming and condemning way, but in a loving and caring way, when you did this and this to me, this is how I felt about it. You have severely hurt me by it, because that action that you did hurt me in this way. So you give the person an opportunity to say sorry and ask for forgiveness. And it says, if your brother acknowledges his wrongdoing, you have gained him. You have won him back. But if he doesn't listen, take one or two with you. Now, don't take two bodyguards with you to beat him up. That's not the way. You take one or two people whom you know he respects with you. And now in a small group, so that by the witness of those two, he will be convinced that it was wrong what he did. Now, of course, if you looked wrong at it, those two people will tell you, hey, my brother, but look, this was not an issue where he really hurt you. Maybe it's your perception that was wrong, okay? So they can correct you as well. But if you had it right, and if those one or two that are a witness testify, yes, this was a wrongdoing that was done against you, and this person still doesn't want to hear him, or the three of you, then go to the elders of the church. Now the elders of the church only will deal with it. And even if then with the elders of the church, this person will listen and say, oh, sorry, that I realize now that I did wrong. Please forgive me. You have won back your brother. That's the end of the matter. That matter is never going to go any further. That is where Paul here is speaking about in 2 Corinthians 2, verse 5 to 11. The hurt and the turmoil that has been going on is enough, is sufficient. Let it be over. Finish. It's acknowledged, over and out. Finished. And then it says, but if he doesn't hear, wait, I think my connection had a problem.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but if he doesn't hear, okay? So, in other words, he lives in sin, is hurting other people, and says it is okay for me to do that and claim that I'm a follower of Christ. Paul says, now then you put him under church discipline. What is church discipline? It is a simple statement like, look, you claim that you are a follower of Christ. Your life is not Christ-like. You claim that your sinful behavior is acceptable for Christ, it is Christ-like, that Jesus would live that same way you are living. And Paul mentions in some places some very specific things, even about a man in the church who is boasting that he is actually in immorality with his own mother. And Paul says, and you're not even rebuking the person. He's defiling your whole church. Paul says that man is not a follower of Christ. He's not a believer. And you are to tell him the true statement of his life, that he is not a saved person, that he is not a follower of Christ, that he is not a member of your church, that he is not part of the kingdom of the Lord. And then Paul says, for the destruction of his flesh, hopefully, so that his soul will be saved in the end. Okay, and that there no longer will be defilement in the church, so that the standard of the Lord will be upheld in the church. Okay, so that whole thing doesn't mean you don't forgive the person, but forgiveness goes with truthfulness and honesty. What is wrong is wrong. When I forgive somebody, that doesn't make the wrong thing right. Wrong remains wrong. I'm just not holding it against you. Okay, but when I forgive, that does not mean that the wrongdoing can continue. The wrongdoing has to stop. Okay, and this is often very much confused. Okay, so do you understand this?
Yeah.
Okay. Of course, we already mentioned Stephen. Okay. So Stephen, we have had Acts 7 verse 60. In Proverbs 14 verse 30, it says, a calm and peaceful and tranquil heart is life and health to the body. But passion and envy are like rottenness to the bones. I think it's a very clear statement, isn't it? When we forgive, we will receive peace in our own hearts. You know, our life will be calm and we will remain healthy. And there are actually unforgiveness leads to several diseases. Let me quickly see if I can. Yes, let me see if I will come to those after. Okay. And in Job 5 verse 2, it says, for anger slays the foolish man, and jealousy kills the simple, the naive person. No, jealousy always comes forth out of unforgiveness. So the issue is that while you are living in bitterness, the person you are bitter at very probably has no problem and is just living a joyful life. Now, let me give you an example, okay? I had a very good friend in YWAM Amsterdam in the beginning years when I was in YWAM. He's a very nice guy from Venezuela. His name was Heber. And Heber didn't have much money and he didn't have a bicycle. And bicycles are the cheapest and the easiest way to get around. Now, Heber would sometimes borrow bicycles from other people. And it had happened already twice that Heber borrowed a bicycle from someone and that the bicycle got stolen. Now, you need to know in Amsterdam, bicycles are the #1 stolen items. You know, Netherlands, everybody has bicycles, and in most bicycles, the lock is more costly than the whole entire bicycle. Just to keep the bicycle away from getting stolen. Now, I had a nice mountain bike, and Heber asked me one time if he could borrow my mountain bike as he heard that I was going out of town. Now, I didn't have a costly lock on that mountain bike because of the simple reason that I never left that mountain bike outside anyways. When I would ride on it to the Y1 base, my lock I will put it actually inside the bicycle room, which is inside the building. At my home, I lived on the first floor, not an apartment. I carried that bicycle up the stairs every day. I would not leave it outside. So no need for a costly lock, because that bike was never outside anyways. I mean, I had a simple lock on it, you know, in case if I would put it next to me and I would maybe pick up something at somebody's house, you know, and maybe the bicycle would for 5 minutes be out of my sight. Well, that lock would probably keep a thief just 5 minutes off the bicycle. Okay, so knowing that the bicycles that Haber had borrowed had twice been stolen already, I told Haber, he asked me if he could use it as I was going out of town the weekend, and he was to go somewhere. He was invited for dinner at the people's house, and that was in Amsterdam North, and there was no bus going there in the evening. So he asked if he please could use my bicycle. So I said, okay, but under one condition only. You must take that bicycle inside the house of the people where you are going. And if you cannot do that, then you cannot use my bicycle. He said, no, oh, no, for sure. No, I will not leave the bicycle outside. I will take it inside, and don't worry, the bicycle will not get stolen. Now, Sunday morning, I come back to Amsterdam. I went straight to the church that I was part of. And to my surprise, I see Haber in the church. But Haber was normally part of a different church. He had never come to the church I'm part of. So I saw him in the church. And so as I came in, he came immediately walking to me, and I saw something was wrong. He was very nervous. And he said, Ansel, I've not been able to sleep for the last 3 days. I don't know how to tell you, but, when I went to Amsterdam North on your bicycle, I asked the people if I please could take the bicycle inside. And then the people did not allow me to take the bicycle inside. And he said, then I had to leave the bicycle outside. And he said, I even put the lock on it that is with it. And I even prayed over the bicycle. But by the end of the evening, when I came out, your bicycle was gone. And I said, hey, but the moment you were praying for the Lord to protect the bicycle, somebody else down the road was surely already praying and saying, hallelujah, a bicycle for me to steal. Now, at that moment, how do you think I felt?
I feel very angry and hurt and everything together.
Yeah. If it had come to my flesh, I would have said, told you so, you fool, I didn't do that. King David said, in your anger, do not talk. But I knew he cannot pay for that bicycle anyways. So the first thing I said, Haber, it's okay, you do not need to pay back my bicycle. And I said, Haber, I forgive you. And as I came in quite briefly before the church service was starting, I told him, I said, Haber, you don't worry. I release you. I forgive you. It's okay. My emotions did not say it's okay. Okay. But my mouth, I decided to say it's okay. We will speak. We will speak later in the afternoon. I will see you in the Y1 base. Okay. I didn't live on the base. I lived about 20 minutes away from the base, the other side of the city center. I said, I will come to the base this afternoon and then I will see you. The worship service started. And as everybody was worshiping the Lord, I was wrestling inside of me. I was struggling. With all my emotions and my anger and my frustration. I have no idea where the sermon was about because I was just struggling. I was even still struggling on my way in the metro back to my house. And after I had eaten lunch, I finally had come to the place that my emotions had calmed down, and I had let go of my bicycle and accepted that I would never see that bicycle again. And so that afternoon around 2 o'clock, I went to the Y1 base, or 3 o'clock, I think it was even, and I met Haber. Now you see, at this point, I had I had become calm. I had, it was just a bicycle, but there's much more attached to it than just a bicycle. It's also my trust in Haber, in his words. And I went to Haber and I told him, I said, Haber, now listen. I said, Satan was having fun when you were not allowed to take the bicycle inside. I said, and then Satan had fun So Satan had been rejoicing when you couldn't take the bicycle inside. Then Satan was rejoicing when he got somebody in, because most of the people who steal these bicycles are drug addicts. They steal the bicycles in order to sell them to pay for their addictions. So I said, then Satan has been very happy and rejoicing to get somebody in addiction. Then Satan was rejoicing when he got that person to steal my bicycle. I said, then Satan was rejoicing when you couldn't sleep the last nights out of fear of my response. And I said, Haber, do you really think that I will give Satan the fun to rejoice again by destroying our friendship? I said, Haber, Satan will not have it. He is finished rejoicing. It's time actually for Satan to start paying for all his rejoicing. I said, so Haber, I forgive you from my heart. From my heart, you don't need to pay back for that bicycle. I said, but you are not the one who stole it. I said, it was Satan who made somebody to steal it. I said, Satan made only one very big mistake. I said, do you realize the mistake Satan made?
It needs to be your bike.
He stole my bicycle. That was a big mistake. He said, and I told him, I said, you see, this bicycle, hey, but this bicycle is blessed. This is such a blessed bicycle. I said, hey, but come on, we're going to pray together. We're going to bless that bicycle. You see, that bicycle was mine. It's still mine, legally. So that bicycle is blessed. Everybody who rides that bicycle will be blessed. So, hey, but come on, together. We're going to bless everybody who will ever ride that bicycle. Or if they take the bicycle apart, everywhere where the bicycle parts are used, all those bicycles will be blessed. Because it's a blessed bicycle. So we started blessing all the people who were riding on that bicycle. And I said, hey, but Satan took the bicycle, but he forgot one other thing. He forgot to check the price tag of the bicycle. And you see, he has already taken the bicycle, but he has not yet paid. But now we are going to state the price of the bicycle. You know what is the price of the bicycle? It's a very simple price. It's the salvation of the soul of the person who, the salvation of the soul of the person who stole it. His soul to be saved, that is the price. Satan will have to let go of the person who took the bicycle. He made the person to steal the bicycle. Now he has to let go of that person because that's the price of the bicycle. I am the one, it's my bicycle, so I can ask for it whatever I want. and I want the salvation of the soul of the person who took the bicycle. So I said, hey, but do you agree? He said, yes, I agree. I said, okay, as we agree together, that is what we are going to pray. And we claim as the price for that bicycle the salvation of the soul who took it. Let me tell you, rarely ever has anything been stolen from me again. You see, Satan now knows the price tags when he steals things from me. And suddenly he doesn't push anyone anymore to steal anything from me. When I was in YWAM Jos, we had lots of people who were struggling with addictions come to our YWAM base. Almost, I mean, I have lost count of the amount of cell phones that got stolen from the base. And all kind of other items. But never got anything stolen from my room. Never. Satan knew the price. If somebody would take something from me, nobody did it. Okay? So that's just an example, you know, how to deal with this kind of issues, and you know, the power of forgiveness and the understanding what is going on in the spirit realm when we forgive. You know, as Paul says, we are not fighting against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities in the air. Powers and principalities of darkness. Yeah, we have to understand where to direct our anger at the right place. It's not against human beings. It's against powers and principalities of darkness. Okay? Now, when we do not forgive, I already quoted the scripture before, you know, in Proverbs, where it says, a calm and peaceful and tranquil heart is life and health to the body, but passion and envy are like rottenness to the bones. Now, there are a couple of medical consequences of unforgiveness. Okay, these are consequences, not punishments the Lord gives. They're just simply consequences if we do not forgive. Because when we do not forgive, we will become bitter. We will become resentful. And some of the consequences of that is high blood pressure. You know, because when you do not forgive, stress builds up. And every time something happens that has somehow a similarity or a connection to the pain that we have refused to forgive, it will bring back all that old pain and add the new pain in addition to it. And so at every next addition, the pain becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, like a bulwark of the enemy. And with that, our blood pressure will go up because our stress level goes up. So high blood pressure can be the consequence of unforgiveness. Now, it doesn't mean it always is, but unforgiveness surely will lead to high blood pressure. Another consequence are ulcers, stomach ulcers, sometimes ulcers in the mouth, but in particularly stomach ulcers. And it's important to realize that our stomach and our heart, as the organs, have as many neuroreceptors as the brain has. In other words, our stomach and our heart have memory. And they respond to that memory. And when I do not forgive, the Lord cannot heal those memories. Now, I can reason with my brain. I cannot reason with my heart. I cannot reason with my stomach. But when I forgive, the Lord heals those memories and replaces them with much more powerful, positive memories. Okay? But if I do not forgive, that will not happen, and that cannot happen. And so stomach ulcers is a consequence. Another medical consequence of unforgiveness is rashes on the skin. Again, it doesn't mean that everybody wears rashes on their skin. It's always because of unforgiveness. There can be several reasons. But unforgiveness can lead to rashes on the skin. Another one is headaches. Of course, also together with the high blood pressure. Life builds up frustrations, and that leads to headache. Another one is arthritis. Now, just imagine, in Proverbs, King Solomon already said that it is rottenness to the bones. That is the description of King Solomon of arthritis. Arthritis is a rottenness to the bone. It's the soft bone tissue getting away. Now, of course, arthritis can happen because of bones. When you get elderly, bones get worn out. But it medically is also shown that unforgiveness does also contribute to arthritis. And isn't it amazing? King Solomon already knew it by the revelation of the Lord. And as a last one, it also leads to an inability to have sex in marriage. And for some people, even for some women, an inability to ever become pregnant. So unforgiveness has very severe medical consequences, which is not a punishment of the Lord. It's just simply a result of the pain in our life, our natural response of our body to a pain which is not supposed to be in our body. You see, the Lord has not created us for pain. When the Lord created us, he did not create a section in our body to store up pain. It doesn't exist. So wherever the pain is, it does bring damage and destruction. So as I already said, it's like every time that something happens similarly to a painful event that we have not forgiven, that we have not dealt with, it becomes an additional pain and an additional pain and an additional pain. And in the end, it becomes a pool of pain in our heart, like a lake of poison, killing us. Now it can be that somebody, and this is a nice story. I mean, sometimes there are also places you can find pictures about this, of a donkey that is thrown in the well by his owner who doesn't want him any longer. So there's a story about a man, and he has an old donkey and he doesn't want the donkey anymore. The donkey cannot carry a load anymore. So for him, the donkey has no value. So he throws the donkey in a well, in an old dry well, and starts throwing soil on top of the donkey to just bury him. He doesn't even have the guts to kill the donkey. So he just thinks that the donkey will suffocate. Now, what if the donkey goes, and if you are that donkey, okay, and you are in the bottom of the well, and you are just complaining with every shovel of dirt that is thrown on you. Look what they are doing to me. Look what they are doing to me. Look how wicked. Well, look how bad. They are evil. They are wicked. And you're just complaining, and well, you are buried under the soil and die and suffocate. Okay? But you see, if that donkey understands forgiveness, every bad heap of soil that is intended to kill him, that is thrown on him, forgiveness is like shaking off the soil and say, the God of peace will soon crush Satan underneath my feet. You understand where to direct your anger. And so he shakes off the soil and steps on top of that soil. What will happen by the time that the well is filled up with soil? Where is the donkey? So the donkey is thrown in the well. The owner starts throwing mud like soil on him. But he forgives his owner every shovel again. He forgives him again and forgives him again. So he shakes off the soil. That's the forgiveness, shaking off the soil. And he says, the God of peace will soon crush Satan underneath my feet. So he shakes the soil off and steps on top of the soil that he just shook off of himself. So the farmer or the owner is just throwing the whole well full of soil. Where is when the well is full, where is the donkey?
Walking out.
Yeah, he is automatically coming higher and higher up out of the well. And by the time the owner thinks he has finished his donkey and buried him deep down, the donkey looks at him and says, thank you, bye-bye, and walks off in his freedom. You understand? That is that's the power of forgiveness. If we live in self-pity because of what people did, if we live in a victim mentality, we die. But if we forgive and we release and we understand where to direct our anger, not to the person who is hurting us, but to the powers and principalities of darkness that motivate that person. And we release and forgive that person, hand him to the Lord. Of course, you have to put up certain healthy boundaries. Then you will walk away in freedom and with peace in your heart, and you will be healthy. Your life will be healthy. Forgiveness is a very powerful thing. And that shows also that ultimately you do not forgive for the sake of the other person. You forgive also for your own sake, for your own life to be well and in peace. Okay? Now, that leads me to the third reason why to forgive. The third reason why God cannot forgive us if we don't forgive others is simply because Jesus is the one who asks us to forgive. He that forgave us an endless multiple times more. He will pay the biggest price ever paid on earth for anything. He is the one who says, I want you to forgive. You know, the biggest crime ever committed was Jesus' crucifixion. To nail God himself to the cross. No crime can ever beat that crime. And Jesus still said, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they do. Now, what is the most important thing for anyone that struggles to forgive? When you struggle to forgive, it means you do not believe that that person that hurt you is more valuable than the debt what they owe you. Because I will be unable to forgive if I do not believe that that person's life, created in the image of the Lord, is more valuable than the hurt that was done to me. So if I think that that hurt done to me is more valuable, or what I lost was more valuable than the life of that person, then I cannot forgive. But isn't that a deception if I think that that life is less valuable than whatever hurt was done to me? Because if I don't forgive, it means to me that person can rot in hell. But that person is created in the image of the Lord. Jesus died for that person as well. Do you understand?
Yes.
Forgiveness and asking for forgiveness are important parts of developing of intimacy. When I cannot forgive, I have no clue, no understanding about intimacy, and never will have understanding about intimacy. I only can know and understand and experience intimacy if I become able to forgive, just as Jesus forgave. And always remember, vengeance, God said, vengeance is mine. Vengeance doesn't even belong to us. We have no right to it. If we think we can handle vengeance, then we will receive the vengeance of the Lord for our own wrongdoing. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, I think I will leave it to this point for now. Okay? And then we'll take a little break, and then we will start looking at how to forgive. Okay? So we take a short break, and then we continue. Okay? Thank you.
Okay.